Aloha and welcome to our presentation titled Speducator Project, Sped Recruitment and Retention in the Pandemic Era. My name is Janet Kim and I'm the Special Education Recruitment Specialist at the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
And my name is Derek Govan. I'm a fully self-contained special education teacher at Eva Mackay Middle School in the Hawaii Department of Education.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rocky Knox, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
The Speducator Project is an innovative personnel development initiative designed to increase the recruitment and retention of quality special education teachers in the state of Hawaii. The project is empowering a community of teacher leaders called the Speducators to develop media marketing campaigns based on the authentic experiences and needs of current special education teachers. This breakout session will describe the design and implementation of the project, as well as the implications of developing special education practitioner community, capacity, and self-determination in the face of the current pandemic.
As a quick disclaimer, the contents of this presentation were developed by the presenters for the 2021 OSIP conference. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Teacher shortage crisis in special education has been widespread and well documented for years. In the last decade, the total number of special education teachers in the country dropped by 17%. Where the average annual attrition rate in education as a whole is 8%, which means that about 8% of teachers across the country leave the profession every year. The attrition rate for special education teachers is 2 to 3 times the national average. And some studies have estimated that up to 50% of new special ed teachers leave the profession within the first few years. There has been a lot of research exploring the causes for the high attrition rate. Some commonly cited reasons include inadequate pay, high caseload, excessive paperwork, lack of administrative support, mentorship, and generally poor working conditions. Here in Hawaii, the special education teacher shortage is even more acute. In a recent study by Payton and colleagues published this year, Hawaii was identified as one of 7 states with the most severe special education teacher shortages in the country. For the past 9 years, the Hawaii Department of Education has lost more special education teachers than they gains annually. While special education teachers make up 35% of new hires in the state, they continue to account for the majority of teacher vacancies. These numbers make a bit more sense when we put it into context. Hawaii is the most remote, geographically isolated state in the country. We also have the highest cost of living. So when we factor in the cost of living, Hawaii teacher salaries are the lowest in the country by a wide margin. This makes it really difficult to recruit and retain teachers from within and outside of the state, as many teachers just can't afford to live here on a teacher's salary without community and family support networks. So teachers who aren't from Hawaii leave at twice the rate of those who are from Hawaii. Some of the things that Hawaii has done to address the shortage have mostly focused on recruitment, with more alternative route to certification programs. Um, there's a strong funding partnership between the Hawaii Department of Education and the University of Hawaii licensure program that subsidizes tuition in special education licensure programs in return for a 3-year service agreement. The state has also funded Grow Our Own licensure programs and implemented a special education mentorship program for new special education teachers in the DOE. And in January 2020, the state took a bold step and provided $10,000 pay differentials for all special education teachers. And with the advent of the pay differentials broadcast publicly for months, there seemed to be a real significant impact on the special ed teacher shortage. The differential pay seemed to rapidly increase the number of highly qualified special ed teachers, resulting in the least number of special ed vacancies in Hawaii DOE history. In the chart to the right, you can see that the number of highly qualified special ed teachers increased from 84% in 2019 to 90% in 2020. In addition, enrollment in the University of Hawaii Special Education Licensure Program, which had been trending down for the past 4 years, shot up by about 40% from the previous year. For a short time, it seemed the recruitment of special ed teachers into vacant positions was on the upswing, and the focus might finally shift to figuring out ways to keep them there. And then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. In March 2020, the Hawaii DOE closed schools and converted to fully online learning for the remainder of the school year, forcing teachers to reinvent their jobs in the space of a week or two. The impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic was overwhelming for all teachers, but special ed teachers in Hawaii were given a really rough transition to the new normal, or the not so normal. At the start of the 2020 school year in August, before comprehensive safety plans were put into place and the vast majority of teachers and students continued in the virtual learning setting, many special ed teachers mandated to return to face teaching, while also accommodating students and families who wish to remain virtual. Thus, special ed teachers were the first to have to learn how to teach students both face to face and online simultaneously. While learning to navigate the new instructional format, Hawaii special ed teachers were given a slew of new procedures, processes, and paperwork. Additional administrative work and multiple meetings were required for COVID impact plans, contingency plans, distance learning plans, and contingency plans for those distance learning plans. This meant that special ed teachers were expected to hold all of those required meetings for every student with an IEP before the end of Q1 for the school year. The economic devastation of COVID-19 to the state of Hawaii also ensured that rumors of budget cuts in special education, discussion about halting differential pay, and potential furloughs were everywhere. And this may have contributed to the sharp decrease in enrollment numbers to the University of Hawaii Special Education Licensure Program. On the right of the slide is a bar graph that shows the number of applicants to the program, which had shot up by 40% of applicants in 2020, nosedived by almost 60% in 2021. While the COVID pandemic was erasing some of the gains that have been made in teacher recruitment efforts, it was also supercharging the conditions that drive special ed teachers out of the profession. Special education teachers' workload increased significantly, as they were not only expected to figure out how to deliver appropriate instruction that met individual needs in extremely difficult circumstances, but they had to do it with 2 to 3 times the typical amount of paperwork and IEP meetings, all within a single semester. Their ability to be effective decreased as overburdened administrators had less time to communicate and advise teachers on the constantly changing IEP service requirements filtering down from the state offices, and special ed teachers had to watch their students' learning regress. Teachers also had less time and ability to collaborate with their colleagues and to compare notes and share ideas for pandemic era teaching. It was the perfect storm of workplace elements that are associated with special ed teacher burnout. So it's unsurprising that according to the most recent Hawaii DOE data, 212 special education teachers left between July 2020 and July 2021. The chart to the right of this slide shows the number of special education teachers who separated or left the Hawaii DOE per month from July 2020 to July 21. The data shows that 101 Hawaii special education teachers left their job before the end of the school year in June 2021, with an additional 111 leaving after the school year ended in just the past 2 months. So the numbers show that not only did a substantial amount of special ed teachers quit in the middle of a school year, but many of those who were able to pull through chose not to return next year. So statistics tell us how many special ed teachers left the Hawaii DOE over the past year and when they left. But from the beginning, we wanted to understand why special ed teachers might be leaving. In October 2020, at the height of pandemic pandemonium in our schools, over 50 Hawaii special education teachers submitted applications for the Speducator Project, a special education teacher leadership initiative. A systematic qualitative analysis was done on applicants' written responses to the following question in the context of their role as special ed classroom teachers. The question was, what do you need right now? How can this group support you during these times? The themes that emerged from this analysis painted a picture of teachers who were overworked, overwhelmed, and in need of support. The first theme was validation and positive affirmation. Special education teachers were busting their butts to do their jobs, but they didn't feel like their work was acknowledged or appreciated by their general ed colleagues or administrators. Another theme that emerged was collaboration and community with special education colleagues. Special educators wanted to talk to other special education teachers to brainstorm and share best practices that emerged during the pandemic. They knew that other special education teachers were the only ones that had the understanding and experience on the ground to share innovative but realistic practices. Another theme special ed teachers identified was the need for more clear, concise guidance from complex and state personnel. special education teachers were getting differing advice from every state agency. Relief from added COVID-19 regulations and responsibilities was another thing that special ed teachers needed. Special ed teachers knew that the increased tasks and responsibilities that had been given to them were completely unsustainable in the long term. And the final theme was work life balance, time for both personal and professional tasks. Special education teachers said they needed the space to practice self care in order to maintain their resilience and their ability to shoulder so much during that time. So the findings of this analysis helped us to understand not only what teachers weren't getting enough of in their job, but also what special ed teachers needed to stay in their jobs.
So when the OSEP leverage briefs were published last year, we tried to analyze what Hawaii already had in place and where our gaps were. For recruitment, we've already implemented 3 of the 4 proposed strategies, having various alternative routes to certification options, funding and loan forgiveness, and grow your own programs. But the sad reality is that we've had those things in place for over 20 years. So therefore, being the recruitment specialist, I've been thinking about the need to change public perception around special education with students with disabilities for years. Unfortunately, an opportunity came in 2019 when declines in enrollment allowed us to reallocate some of our UH program tuition funds towards developing a recruitment campaign. We hired a full-service marketing team, and over the next year, we completed research as an initial discovery phase and then used it to develop our branding and messaging strategy. As a result, this campaign became Every Student Deserves Someone Special. But right as we were looking to move into phase 3 to begin creating storytelling content such as video and radio ads, the pandemic hit and put everything on hold as we no longer had access to schools, teachers, or students. And as the pandemic raged on, it became more and more evident that we were in danger of losing a large chunk of our special education workforce. And I remember thinking to myself, what is the point of putting all this time and money and energy into recruiting more people when we can't even keep the ones that we have? And so when Derek Govan, who will be our final co-presenter for today, reached out and shared his vision to build a new community for supporting special education teachers through the pandemic, we decided to combine our efforts and conceptualized what came to be the Speducator Project. This new project allowed us to continue this recruitment campaign as we were then able to hire the special education teachers for our talent, essentially making them the face and voice of this campaign. But while we started assessing the OSEP's leverage briefs for retention, we found that this is where our state was really lacking. Although the Hawaii DOE did develop a SPED-specific induction and mentoring program, the initiative was recently killed as the result of the pandemic-related budget cuts. So there haven't been any initiatives that looked at professional empowerment, enhancing professional leadership, supportive workplace environment, or ongoing professional learning for our special education teachers in this state. Therefore, the bulk of our proposed Speducator project outcomes prioritized retention through community building. And so our project was designed to identify and empower current quality special education teachers across the state, build community, belonging, and support as a retention strategy, to understand the current needs and scope of responsibilities of the current special education teacher workforce so that we could inform policy and professional development initiatives, and lastly, to identify strengths and gaps within the pre-service to in-service special education teacher pipeline. So how did we do it? So next I'm going to share our process from the time our project was approved to the selection of our participants. Because of the urgency to get this community together, we received approval on the last day of September and were able to complete the application and selection of our participants within a month. So we'd like to also point out that given how overwhelmed we knew the teachers were during this time, we intentionally held our application period over fall break. So the ultimate goal being to select 15 to 20 of the highest quality special education teachers across the state. And so we intentionally designed our process around 4 stages: awareness, interest, applications, and selection. So for creating initial awareness, we capitalized on the recruitment branding design from the campaign and created a flyer that provided a quick overview of the project and asked everyone to refer the best special education teacher they knew. And because we had the new campaign swag, so we were able to offer t-shirts, bags, notebooks to any person if the person that they referred was selected for our project. And so using referrals was our way to promote getting more of that quality aspect of teachers to apply. So we disseminated the flyer through email, which included all the faculty at the University of Hawaii's College of Education and the Hawaii State Teachers Association, who distributed the flyer to all the teachers in the state. And in addition, we've shared the flyer on 3 different social media channels, which included Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So the goal of the flyer, emails, and social media posts was to garner interest and drive people to check out our project website, which we designed to be a one-stop shop for all information. So it included an overview of our project outcomes, the eligibility criteria, participant expectations, participant benefits, and then had the link to the online application. So we use bit.ly links for our website and materials so that we could track engagement. And you can visit our project website by going to bit.ly/speducator-website. And in just 2 to 3 weeks, we had over 446 views on our project website. So the goal of the website was then to drive eligible participants to want to apply to be a part of this project. So we only had 3 eligibility requirements. The first was that applicants must be living and teaching in a Hawaii public school, which also included public charter schools. Next, applicants must be licensed in special education. However, they could be either probationary status or tenured. And lastly, all applicants must be currently teaching as a classroom special education teacher, which includes having care coordinator duties. In the end, we had 67 people start an application, with 53 being fully completed by the deadline, and after initial eligibility screening, we were left with 49 applications for review. So lastly, we had to design an effective and fair selection process. Hawaii is also a very small state, and especially on many of our rural island communities, it's really common for people to know one another. And so therefore, we decided to implement a blind review process, and we used key leaders, such as assistant superintendents from the Hawaii DOE and the dean from the College of Education to be part of our review panel. And so to do this, we de-identified all application responses, which included removing all personal information and names of people, schools, or even the institutions they attended. Then we assigned codes to each applicant and copied only their open-ended responses and recommendation form submissions into an Excel spreadsheet. Recommendation forms had to have come from an administrator and a parent, and then they could select a third. So we recruited a total of 27 reviewers who were separated into 9 groups so that there would be 3 reviewers for each applicant, and then each reviewer had to read through the applicant responses and simply decide to recommend or not recommend them to the project. But then at the end, they were asked to go back and select the top 2 who they felt were the strongest of their group. And through this process, 15 applicants were selected by our review team to be a part of this project. As the project coordinators, we did a second blind review using the remaining applicants who had received either all recommended or strongly recommended ratings. And our goal was to select 5 more participants who could either even distributions or fill in gaps according to our priority criteria, things like grade level, placement type, and years of experience. In the end, 20 amazing special education teachers, now referred to as speducators, were selected for this project and cover the broad scope of who special education teachers are in Hawaii. This collective represents 13 of the 15 complex areas in the state and are spread out across 5 islands. In addition, we successfully recruited teachers from all grade levels. For example, 4 in preschool, 7 in elementary, 4 in middle school, and 6 in high school. We had teachers who represented 1 or multiple placement types, which included like inclusion, resource, fully self-contained, or community-based instruction settings. And lastly, we included new and veteran teacher perspectives, as these teachers have anywhere from 1 to 22 years of teaching experience in special education.
So now I'd like to take the opportunity to share examples of specific outcomes and implications that this collective was able to address in just the 7 months from November 2020 to May 2021. Again, our outcomes are in line with each of the remaining strategies not yet being addressed in Hawaii from the OSEP leverage briefs. So as shared earlier, our educators were the face and the voice of the Every Student Deserves Someone Special recruitment campaign. They managed the campaign social media accounts and shared their own stories and experiences as part of the 4 radio ads and 4 videos aimed at elevating and promoting the profession. To listen and watch these campaign marketing materials, please visit someonespecialforstudents.com or review our OSEP 2021 poster session entitled Changing the Public Narrative Around Special Education in Hawaii. So when we began our work together for our monthly convenings in November, we hit the ground running with our 20 educators with an intentional design that would allow us to divide and conquer our set outcomes. We began our work on November 13th, where we met with the educators online for our monthly convenings on Friday afternoons and then all day on Saturday. These convenings provided an opportunity for enhanced professional leadership where they were exposed to 20 different stakeholders, which included Hawaii Department of Ed state leadership, University of Hawaii at Manoa's leadership, state legislators, Hawaii State Teacher Association Union President, and private sector equity advocates. Our monthly meetings were intentionally designed to support our special education teachers to prevent emotional burnout, while also providing them with relevant professional development opportunities to enhance their practice and share their learning with a wider professional learning community through social media, focus groups, and data collection trainings. This slide shows you our guest speaker, Kumu Ka'anohi Kalama Makamber from the Office of Hawaiian Education, who spoke to our group regarding Native Hawaiian education frameworks and how our educators can advocate for and implement this framework into special education. Throughout the course of the project, we had between 90 and 100% monthly attendance, and we were able to have 100% retention of every educator throughout our project for the 2021 school year. Despite everything on the educators' plates during their normal work lives, they still desired to be with those individuals who would understand their struggles, problem solve with them together, and work in a collaborative way to better their profession, not only for themselves, but for others. Another way in which we supported retention was through induction and mentorship, where we hosted a Speducator Talk story. Participants got to learn about Speducators' experiences, their path, and why they even chose to become a special education teacher. The event was broken into 3 sessions, breakouts both by age level and by placement. Words of advice. This event targeted teacher candidates or those considering becoming special education teachers, but the event was actually open to all, and the attendees also included gen ed teachers, other special education teachers, other school and district personnel, administrators, and even parents. Throughout our monthly convenings, we engaged the educators in ongoing professional learning. This included us bringing in different educational leaders to facilitate appropriate and relevant professional development for our educators to benefit their students with special needs, as well as to take our collective knowledge and expertise to a broader audience. One way we did this was through what we called our Speducator Connection, which was a virtual event where information shared included insights from the perspectives of classroom special ed teachers on the following special topics: caseload management and IEPs, collaboration, inclusive practices and teaching strategies, and about SPED for laws and policy. These informational sessions were split into breakout rooms where participants were able to pick and choose what topics they would like to learn about. Attendees, again, they included a diverse group of stakeholders, which proves that there is a there is a desire to create a larger community of support around how to collectively support students with disabilities across our state. Our educators also experienced professional empowerment as we modeled the power of always having a passion project to better the profession for yourself, other special education teachers, and or students with disabilities. This idea was rooted in the fact that this Speducator project was the result of my passion project coming to life. So using COVID-19 as the catalyst to build communities specific to special education teachers. We challenged each of our educators Identify a problem of practice at the classroom, school, or state level that you feel personally that you want to address. By engaging in meaningful action on a problem that is contextual and relevant, it added agency and ownership to the problem. Each Speducator conceptualized their project, and 4 were presented at the Speducator Connection. One shining example is House Bill 1291, which was the end result of Speducator Passion Project, designed to allocate funds for University of Hawaii scholarships for high achieving students with special needs. One of our Speducators, Sean Whitwer, was upset with how few students with disabilities continued on to a higher education and met with legislator to create this bill. His bill gained support from parents, special education teachers, principals, and higher education faculty, and the bill successfully passed and was written into law. As a result of this work, he was awarded with the Hawaii State Teachers Association Pono Award, which recognizes an exceptional member who demonstrates the ability to lead, organize, and engage others to advocate on issues of social justice. So giving teachers, special education teachers, a space to work on matters that are of importance to them, it empowers them, which leads to a supportive workplace environment. We designed this time together not only to engage in professional development and to have deeply needed conversations around our practice, but a chance to just be together with other special education teachers. Providing them with monthly convenings allowed them to support one another in their practice, as the intentional groupings provided their emotional support for placement levels, grade levels, and the years of teaching. But also, we designed optional pauhanas to be this one time a month meeting where those teachers could virtually meet just to be together. One subgroup of the Speducators facilitated games to play together, allowing them to enjoy each other's company in a way that some of them, or even most of them, had never done before. Even after making these pauhanas optional for the Speducators to attend, we never had not one pauhana where they didn't show up. And so this validates that the Speducators need community and that they were willing to give up their time to a design that allowed them to freely be together with those who understand their work. One Speducator said, quote, "The support I get each month is more than the 21 years I've worked in the special education department. They give me hope, understanding, and the desire to continue pouring my heart into my job. They give me knowledge and confidence that I am a good enough teacher." So, the question is, where do we go from here? The project was really born out of a crisis that through unconventional means, but our goal now is to find long-term solution funding that would allow us to sustain, build capacity, and scale up these efforts. We would like to recruit a new group of 20 Speducators every 2 years, hopefully starting in 2022. And by the end of that next cohort, ending in 2024, we would like to have increased public engagement around all our campaign narratives. For example, we'd like to have at least 2,000 visits to our campaign website, increase our social media following to at least 500, and increase our campaign YouTube videos to 5,000 views. For retention and support, we'd hope to increase public engagement in a range of special education professional development opportunities, such as hosting an annual Speducator conference with at least 300 participants from special education teacher, general education teachers, parents, administrators, and any other educational stakeholder. We'd like to continue hosting Speducator Talk Stories events for at least 200 teacher candidates and prospective students. A new opportunity we would like to be able to offer is hosting at least 2 peer-to-peer or these teacher-led professional development trainings at each of our state complex levels. Finally, we would like to have inspired the implementation of at least 40 passion projects, being shared to inspire others and encourage replication. In the end, our goal is to grow a community that will help elevate, support, and transform educational opportunities in special education that extend and last far beyond this pandemic.